1939 there was a carpenter. That's to say, there were a good many carpenters. Not all of them were as busy as they had been before the war. There was time, for instance, to listen to the wireless and to read the newspapers. And to some of them, the war may have seemed rather a long way off. Then, all of a sudden, there came a change. A plan which had been discussed and prepared a long time ago was put quickly into operation. And as a result of it, these carpenters and woodworkers found that instead of playing only an indirect part in the war effort, as some of them have been doing, they were now going to be employed on a job of the highest importance. The chairs and tables and wardrobes on which they'd been working were put on one side to make room for their new work. To all of them, it was work of an unfamiliar kind, work on clamps and wedges and ribs and spars, work which was really part of the war effort. The result of this great changeover was the Mosquito. It was made entirely of wood, and for 3 years it was the fastest aircraft in the world, and it was also extraordinarily versatile. It was a night fighter. It was used on coastal command patrol. It went out train busting and precision bombing. On these and all sorts of other jobs, the Mosquito went out to look for the enemy and destroy him on land, at sea, and in the air. Why was the Mosquito such an outstanding success? Let's look at its construction. First, the wings. Each wing is built up in one piece from tip to tip. The base consists of 2 spars, a rear spar and a front spar. Between them is a light interspar rib structure crossed by stringers. Overall, there's a very strong skin which takes most of the stresses. This is how a rear spar is constructed. First, booms are made. This is done by passing spruce members between rollers which apply a special kind of cement. After the cementing, they're transferred to what's called a bonding fixture, a large forming block shaped to the wing's forward sweep. When the laminations have been assembled in this fixture, they are clamped down and left to set permanently in the required shape. That's how the foundations of the wooden wing are laid. So well laid, in fact, that nothing will part them. When enough time has elapsed for the cement to set, the spar boom moves on to the next stage. It is put in position in a jig and firmly clamped so that the edges can be trued up. This is done with a special rotary plane which runs on metal guides to ensure precision. This is extremely important because there must be uniform balance so that both ends of the spar shall be exactly the same weight. When the truing up is finished, the spar boom is joined by spacing pieces to another boom of the same shape but of lighter construction, and a team of woodworkers brings in the long, narrow plywood skin which will cover these booms on both sides so as to form a complete box spar. Although the skins are already covered with cement, this has to be reinforced with thousands of screws. Now let's move on to the wing assembly works. The complete box spar, fitted with its skins and all its accessories, is passed over to another team of woodworkers who place it in position in the wing jig. Next, the ribs are fitted. These are shaped frameworks covered with plywood skins. They connect the forward and rear spars, forming the skeleton of the wing. Now that it's ready for covering, you can begin to see its final shape. For the covering, an inner skin of birch plywood is reinforced by closely placed stringers, which will be sandwiched between it and the outer skin. Here is an inner skin being fitted, with the stringers already attached. These inner skins are built in 3 sections. a right-hand one, a left-hand one, and a small center section. All three are made so as to fit perfectly into one complete wingspan. Now for the top skin. Stringers and skin surfaces are again coated with special cement. This has to be done as quickly as possible because the cement dries very fast, and when it is dry, it makes a joint that will last forever. To ensure an even covering for the skin surfaces, the cement is applied with corrugated rollers. But to make quite sure that the skin will remain in position, don't forget it will have to stand tremendous strains. It's fixed with screws. There are more than 4,000 of them, and the whole lot are put in less than 14 minutes. Well, the wooden structure of the wing is complete. And now for the accessories. Inside the framework of the wing, electric cables and hydraulic lines and controls are installed. Then tank doors are fitted, and fitted absolutely true so as to avoid any possibility whatever of air resistance while the plane's in flight. Next, the leading edges are fixed and cemented in position, and then the whole wing is now covered with fine linen, which is painted over with a fireproof dope. Finally, the undercarriage struts are added, and the wing is complete. It's then mounted on a lorry and taken to an assembly factory. Part 1 of the manufacture of the Mosquito is finished. Now for Part 2, the fuselage. These peculiar looking shapes are called jigs or molds. The fuselage is made in two halves. Presently you'll see why. And so there are two types of mold. In these molds are slots into which are fitted bulkhead members which have been previously prepared. The outer surfaces of the bulkheads are given a coating of the special cement. Then a skin is carefully fitted over the mold and clamped down with flexible steel bands. They are screwed down on either side of the mold to hold the skin in position until the cement is set. The mold in this stage is known as an armadillo, and when the cement is set, the steel bands are removed. Have a good look at the framework now being fixed to the inner skin. It consists of strengthening members which will be needed at the later stages of manufacture. Again, the armadillo clamps are fixed and all the spaces left over are filled up with a very, very light wood called balsa wood. This is used to stabilize the wing structure. It's rather like a jigsaw puzzle to fit all the pieces in, but no gaps must be left or the whole structure would be weakened. Finally, the top skin, again cemented, is placed in position. When it's set, all the rough surfaces are sandpapered down, and the final shell of half a fuselage, that is, bulkhead, inner skins, strengthening members, balsa spacing pieces, and top skin, is removed in one piece. It really is a wonderful example of the woodworker's craft. Here are both halves of the fuselage side by side, ready for internal wiring and for the installation of components and accessories. The first step in the next stage of manufacture is fitting the doors of the bomb bay. But there are other doors as well. That first stiffening member that you saw, here it is again. It's being sawn out of the fuselage shell. And when it's been neatly cut out, there's the door all in one piece. But that's by no means everything that goes into the fuselage. All the hundreds of other components that go into it are installed at this stage. And now you see how the job is simplified by having the fuselage in two halves. Down one side, electric wiring is installed, and down the other, the hydraulic equipment, including air bottles for operating the hydraulic system. Further forward, the pilot's controls are being fitted. After the installation of the components, what you've seen here is only a fraction of the job, comes the joining together of the two complete halves of the fuselage. These are slid together on a central jig, and then clamps are fixed in position. Now for the making of the actual joint between the two halves. Fillets of wood are fixed along the joints, tacked and then screwed into position. The same operation is carried out inside the fuselage. It's a delicate and difficult job, and when you see how confined the space is inside a Mosquito, you'll realize how much time is saved by this method of building the two halves separately. Here's the tail bulkhead being fixed. This also has to be done with the greatest care. You'll see in a moment how important this is. Now the surface of the fuselage is finished off. Canopy covers are fitted, and the completed fuselage goes to join the wings at the main assembly shop. Here it's carried on an overhead crane and lowered onto the wing assembly, where it fits as neatly as a glove. The leading edges are then installed with radiators and air intake vents. And here you can see the importance of that tail bulkhead. It has to carry 600 weights of tail planes, rudder, and everything that controls the aircraft. Now petrol tanks are fitted into the wings. The engine is mounted and the hydraulic gear tested. Then the propeller is fitted, and at last the Mosquito is ready for testing. During its test flight, the speed and the movements of the aircraft impose tremendous strains on its wings and fuselage. One of the engines may be stopped in mid-air and then started up again. Or the plane may be put suddenly into a dive. Yes, the men who designed the Mosquito, and especially the men who built it, the woodworkers and the joiners, have good reason to feel very proud indeed of their achievement.